Alright, welcome to Chapter 2, figuring out what content you need and how to find your models. Also with a little talk on my own process with using the reference. And I want to actually start with the latter. So here is a project, in the beginning stages of a project I did. So I got a call from Scotty Young, and he said, I'd like you to do an illustration for a book I'm putting out. He gave me a number of options on what to do, and to make a long story short, it involved a fight between an alien called Bernard and Kanye West, which is a perfect subject matter for me. So I knew right away I wanted to have Kanye West in the recording studio and the alien Bernard breaking into it and there being a battle. So I used Google SketchUp, which is a free 3D program right here by SketchUp. This is for the professional version. The normal version is free. And the great thing about SketchUp is it allows you to download a lot of different models and sets. So I downloaded various parts of a recording studio and organized it to how I would like. And I created the set, and I moved the camera around the scene to try to find a few different compositions, especially one that would show Kanye West in the foreground and then the alien in the background. That's what I wanted. So this was a great starting off point. So after doing some sketching, I started to shoot my reference. And this is me shooting in my basement. Now, as you're going to move forward in the lessons and the chapters, this piece I did is maybe 3-4 years old. I recommend having a backdrop so that there's not a lot of noise and not a lot of stuff in the background just to make things too complicated. So that is a mistake I made here. But this is an older image, like I said. But anyways, you can see me doing various poses, getting some shots of other areas of the location, like the recording studio here, me getting hit by an alien. And here are some shots of Kanye West. This is the reference I found of him from a particular angle that I needed. This is my body here, and this is me photoshopping on his head to try to get that to work. And here's me making various expressions that I knew would be accurate to what I wanted. And then, figuring out how the microphone would sit, because the perspective ended up being pretty extreme. So this process of cutting up reference and putting it together like Frankenstein is one I use quite a bit. So then here are some more shots, me playing various characters in the scene. And then here's an image of me trying to put it together with the photos and the SketchUp model, also doodling in a little bit of the alien here. And then here's a shot again on the right of another sketch composition I put together, still trying to get a feel for it. It wasn't really there though yet, the perspective was still feeling a bit off. So as we move forward, we do have the final image, which I think ended up turning out pretty good. We have Kanye West in the recording booth. Of course, he's an alien also. You can see all of his tentacles. We have Bernard inside smashing all the different characters. You could see all the different versions of me back there. And, you have the giant gun coming from him over here breaking through the door. So that's basically the process of using reference to get this image to work. Now, I have a few other ones to show you very quickly. Let's see. So here is the final painting I did. Make it a little smaller. There it is. So this painting is titled Morning Routine. Shows how I like to start every morning. A couple of years ago when I still had a Walkman. And here is some of the reference. So it's actually a Photoshop screen cap. So this was the reference I shot of myself. Again, at this time I wish I would have had a backdrop because this is pretty complicated, but I just used a camera on a stand. And this is different versions of my hand and my feet and my arm, just trying to get it just right. So you can see I go through a lot of different examples. Usually with your reference shot, you're not going to completely nail it with just one. You're going to want to play with a few different examples. So here's this one, and one more is the current project I'm working on. And we'll look at this shot. Involves the most extensive reference I've done. I ended up bringing about 12 people in to the shoot. And the image had to do with 1968 Harlem jazz. So these characters here, these very kind folks that posed for me, that I ended up hiring, were really great. They fit the look that I needed, and I actually had this young lady here as a stand-in because I didn't have the children at the shoot. So I shot this in a very action-packed afternoon with a lot of reference for about 20 different paintings. And then later on at my house, I had this young man come in and pose to replace the girl character here. And I didn't have a horn for him to blow on at this point, so I used the spatula, and then I knew the shoes would have to be a little different, so I put some of my shoes down there. And as far as where that was taken, I can show you the sketch. And here we go. Now, the image that we seen initially had some of these characters, but I definitely moved a lot of them around. I added this young girl here. I added a little puppy. Of course, I drew in the horn, and then from here I would go on and do the final paintings, which I'm doing at the moment. The paintings are sitting in the studio. I'm working on them. So that's the process for creating this image. So that's a bit of how I use all of this information. I do a ton of research, especially on a project like this that is very historical. Okay, so you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, alright, well, this is the subject, this is the project I have to do. And to give a little foreshadowing to what we're going to be talking about later, we're going to use the Renaissance area with, you know, knights and castles, etc. So you say to yourself, okay, I'm doing a book cover with one of the maidens in the village underneath the castle, and I'm doing a portrait of her, and then I'm also doing an image of her running away. So you got to figure out, okay, I need this type of person, this type of girl to play the model. So one way you could go is think about all your friends or family that might be able to pull off that look. Of course, that might be a good way to go, especially if they're artists themselves. They're going to understand what you need. Now, sometimes if someone has never ever modeled before and you try to get them to model, there's quite a bit of time you spend coaching them through it because they might be a little self-conscious, which is understandable. One route you can take, which I've found to be very helpful, is through the site called Model Mayhem. I have to warn you, there's a lot of glamour modeling, like swimsuit, bikini, stuff like that. You most likely might not want those type of models. But the site is so large, though, that most likely wherever you're located, you could find some models that aren't necessarily professional, but the fact that they're on the site means that they at least want to model, and they're familiar with the process. So I'm in Sarasota, Florida. So let's do a search. We got model, female. Sarasota, Florida. We'll do about 15 miles. We need a female for this character, and let's say the age range is between about 22 and 25. And you can go through all other types. Now, hair color, let's just do brown. Alright, and you can get as specific as you want. You hit search, and here are a bunch of women that could potentially work for you in your shoot. Now, of course, the issue that comes up is, are you going to pay them? Are you not going to pay them? I like to be paid for my work. Honestly, that's how I look at it. you know, I try not to do too much work for free, obviously. So I think the model deserves to be paid as well, especially if that's her creative expression. So ask yourself honestly what you're able to give, and be honest with the model and propose that. If you absolutely can't pay, try to make it valuable to them by perhaps doing a drawing of them, taking some good photography if you're familiar with photography, and giving them some of the photos. Try to make it worth their while, because you want to be fair. And at that point, if you get a model and you set a date for when it's going to shoot, you're going to also want to think about costume. What is the costume going to be? And think about anybody else and anything else you have to have for the shoot to happen. And you're going to want to definitely plan out your compositions, have an idea of what you want to do, and then move forward from there. Alright, so just to summarize, you want to shoot some photos. First, you probably would think of some of your friends, specifically other artists, so they would understand. And if none of them fit the role, perhaps you could go into Model Mayhem and find the right person. It does help if you're able to pay. I always try to pay myself, but if you absolutely can't, make the negotiation really worth that person's while. You want to be fair. Okay, so let's move on to the next chapter, where I'm going to be talking about the actual setup of the reference shoot and how to make that work. Okay.